Hey there, I wanted to do a video to wrap up any loose ends from the last couple of months in terms of questions and things that I haven't necessarily been able to do a full and dedicated video on. So for the next few months, I won't necessarily have the capacity to be able to do high effort weapons test videos or tutorial videos that you might have seen in the past. I will still be doing playthrough videos like you've seen before. The quality there won't change as they tend to be easier to produce and require less research. There's also a video for the viewers and the subscribers who appreciate some of the technical details that I often provide. So if you've been following the channel for some time, thank you very much. Thank you for all the engagement and the views and likes. I should be able to get back to the norm later this year once my obligations are done. So one of the videos that I've been wanting to do is where to shoot tanks. I'll quickly go through that here. And this is for Ostfront, that is Germany and the Soviets. So I'll be starting with the Soviets. Generally speaking, there is a demarcation between 1939, the future and the past in terms of Soviet tanks. In the past, prior to 1939, one of the comments I saw on Reddit was, why does it look like the Soviet tank designers were doing drugs and then suddenly they sober up after 1939? And there's various reasons for that I won't necessarily talk about here. We're talking about the BT, I just shoot it in the back of the turret. And the armor tends to be thin, so if you've got a 50 mil or 5 centimeter or a 75, just shoot it straight in the front if it's facing you, and you will hit it in the back. The shell should go through. If you're talking about the T28, I often shoot it in the roller, the third one. The ammo sits somewhere in the middle of the tank. So the same thing can be said from if you shoot in the front, you want to shoot it straight down the nose. Similarly, the T35 is jam-packed with ammunition. So shooting it in the middle, if you're facing the side, you can shoot it in the upper. There's a block just below the turret. There's so much ammunition in there, your shell, if it misses, it's going to hit some piece of ammunition on its way to the other side. If you're shooting it from the front, you can also shoot it straight in the nose. And the ammo is actually at the back, closer to the engine from the middle, the lowest stored ammo. But you will hit it if your shell makes it through to the back. Another spot you can shoot from the front of the T35 is the left front turret. So that turret armor is so thin, it'll go, assuming you've got a 3.7 APCR or a 5 centimeter up, you shoot in the left turret, it's going to cut right through and hit that ammo rack in the middle of the underneath the turret. So we're talking about the KV-1. The ammo tends to sit in the lower mid-back area. It's also in the back of the turret, so you have a better chance of hitting the nodule that sits out the back of the turret. So if you're shooting a T-34, you want to shoot it in the middle front, as you can see on the screen. There's an ammunition rack there, and it's pretty close to the side, and that will trigger a cook-off or an explosion. And if you see a KV-2, the bulk of the ammo sits at the back of the turret. So there is a little bit of ammo in the body or the base, but the armor is so thick, you better... If you see a shot like this, just shoot it in the back of the turret and you'll create a cook-off. And the question is, where do I shoot German tanks? Well, the good news is the Germans were a bit more consistent with their ammo placement. So they often evolved their designs incrementally, meaning they kept a lot of choices from prior models. The ammo locations are no different. So with the German tanks, I often aim for the rollers, as the rollers quite neatly depict the location of the ammunition. In the case of the KP2, I shoot the upper middle centered below the turret. There's ammunition there, hitting it creates the cook-off. Talking about the KP3, you can shoot the middle roller, and behind that is an ammo rack, and that will largely get you the effect that you're after. For the KP4, if you shoot it in the middle, upper middle area, you will also hit an ammo rack. Talking about the Stug, shoot it in the third roller, you'll blow up the Stug. The Tiger is a bit trickier because it has so much armor, but shoot it on its emblem, middle center, right below the turret, and you will hit an ammo rack. And then for the Tiger 2, back of the turret, again, when you see a nodule like that at the back of a turret, there's good chances there's going to be ammunitions in there. Another thing that's important in Ostfront that I think goes unnoticed or unmentioned is the sounds. These are very important to tell you if your shell has failed. So this is what the APCR sounds like when it doesn't pin. It makes a distinct high-pitched ping sound. When any APC round fails to pin, it creates a rattling steel sound, like a tin. When a heat round fails to ignite or cut through the steel, it makes an explosive sound. HE shells don't really fail, they just make an explosive sound. However, I bring that up because I think new players will shoot their HE shells at armor and wonder why their shell isn't going through the armor. Not realizing they're not actually using AP shells, they're using the HE shells for armor. When an HE shell hits, it just makes an explosive noise. So what does a successful shot sound like? A common confusion when playing the Soviets or Finland is a lot of the ammunitions are 76mm, I think it's BR350, and it's all APCBC, and you're wondering where's the C? Not ballistic cap at the end, but where's the C? APC, the C part, where's my cap? Can I hit curved armor? Well, the Soviet shells tended to have a stub nose. So in other words, the Soviet shells implicitly come with a cap. They've implicitly got a C. Generally speaking, the Soviet APCBC shell, pictured on the far right, did better against sloped armor. So it did more with less. So it had less pen on average, but it could recover a shot from higher angles. Now, I've been playing a lot of infantry lately, and I've realized the value of heat rounds, or the heat mechanism. So unlike kinetic-based weapons like your APC, APCBC, HE, the heat round doesn't necessarily rely on speed or angle as much as the others. Its trick is that it is a flying shaped charge. What is a shaped charge? Well, I recommend if you want a deep dive onto a shaped charge, go Google up the Monroe effect. The short of it is, if you have a cube of high explosives that you would typically find in, say, the mining industry, and you cut a hole into that homogeneous cube of explosive power, you're creating a focal point inside that cube. And like many things in physics, the path of least resistance is pursued. And so when all of that explosive power releases, it's going to try to climb out the little etching that you've created. Now, some clever people decided to stick a foil of copper into a shaped charge, and upon detonation, that foil is compressed down into a superplastic state that travels up to Mach 10, Mach 12, and discharges into a surface, which is going to be a tank. And armor, like rolled homogeneous armor, hardened armor, these metals don't react like they do with kinetic shells. At such speeds, the lattice, at an atomic level, the lattice doesn't have time to react to this force. And so it simply moves out the way, almost like a liquid, I dare say. And that super plastic sheet shard of copper will push its way into the tank and cause devastation on the inside. Now, this doesn't require heat. Despite the name HEAT, there's actually very little heat involved in a heat shell being effective. And so speed is not really important for the shell to be effective. There is a mechanism between timing, but I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But it is the main failure point of heat rounds. It's the nose clicking off the mechanism and the shell being in place to discharge the copper. Often, if it's misaligned, it will splatter and not do what it was intended to do. So I'm going to go through APCR rounds. I saw a couple of comments on that in the comments section, so I thought I'd just put my 2 cents in the hat and in the context of Ostfront. So I was going to go down a whole bunch of physics and maths about APCRs and why they work the way they do, but that's not very useful. So what I'm going to do is quickly go through the TLDR of them and what that means in Ostfront. So the TLDR of APCR shells is that they've got superior pen. However, they lose that energy very quickly. So beyond 100 meters in Ostfront, your APCR is not going to perform as well as, say, an APCBC counterpart. It also makes them less angle tolerant. So now in real life, APCR shells tended to shatter more than they ricocheted, and that was to do with their weight and their mass. But in Ostfront's a very forgiving game. In fact, most of these simulation games are very forgiving in terms of angles. That's to say that if you're shooting APCR shells and it fails because of angle and not implicit pen, shoot another. I guesstimate that if you're shooting APCR, you're usually using an early war gun like a 3.7 puck or some other smaller caliber gun, which usually implies high reload speed. So just keep shooting at a new angle or a new surface and one of the shells will go in, assuming that the implicit pen of the APCR can actually cut through the armor. The other thing is that Ostfront makes it really easy to tell whether your shell is going to enter or not. So you don't need to think about angles or LOS or anything like that. If the reticle is green and it has a number underneath it, it means the shell is going to pen. 9 times out of 10, sometimes there are surface bugs or just incorrect values, but you can rely on whether the reticle is green or red to tell you whether or not your shot is going to go in. So you don't have to think about all of this stuff. The exception being HE rounds, as the reticle doesn't really show information on its pen because it doesn't do pen. I've also made an update to the color-coded rubric for each shell along with my anecdotes in white next to each one. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much. I hope you found the information useful, and if there's any corrections or there's things you'd like to add, you're welcome to do so in the comments. And feel free to correct me if perhaps my information is incorrect. I'd hate to perpetuate bad information, so chime in the comments below. Until next time, cheers.